What secret have you and your sibling managed to keep from your parents? That my sister got arrested in college for stealing hay to spread around a friend's yard as a hearty duck. You had to find an adult who knew how to bail her out. BC I was 17. Then wait 4 hours just to drive her drunk ass back to her dorms. Her punishment from the judge was to volunteer at a local barn shoveling hay and horse poops around. That my little brother didn't break his arm playing baseball. He broke his arm while we were sword fighting with baseball bats and I saw shot and I took it. Nice username by the way. Identical twin here. I think I'm the other one. I was only about 9-10. When my older brother would get home from high school he would constantly ring the doorbell for me to open the door. He has his own keys but he just kept ringing. It annoyed me almost every day. One day I start yelling out to open it himself. He kicks the window by the door. It shatters and a tiny shard cuts my foot. No big deal. Just a band-aid fix. We call mum and dad saying someone threw a rock. And my brother even found a rock outside as evidence. Mum and dad call the police later when they get home. Police arrive. There's a full report done. And my brother and I have never mentioned the story again. I'm glad that it wasn't some hardcore detective where he asked how I injured my foot. For some dumb reason my parents' high school reunion was in January in Ohio. They decided to get a hotel closer to the event space since we lived in a rural area, leaving the kids alone in the house. Naturally we threw a giant ass party. Everything seemed to be fine around 3 AM after cleaning up but we noticed that people had parked on the grass leaving tire tracks all over the lawn. We were totally ducked. The next morning we woke up and were blessed to find a full blanket of snow covering everything in sight. It stayed on the ground for ample enough time that the tracks became totally unnoticeable. Parents still don't know 19 years later. We tore up a couch with a knife and blamed it on the dog. That we didn't accidentally order the pay-per-view porn. Edit. It's possible they knew this. TLDR. Ruined sentimental artwork. Busted ass to get it replaced. My mom and her new husband took a belated honeymoon trip to New Orleans, which was where he used to live in his early adult life. While there, they ran into one of his old friends who had begun selling artwork as a street vendor. My mom secretly bought a beautiful, one-of-a-kind drawing from the vendor and as a Christmas gift for her husband. And I suggested I build a frame and mount it while my less crafty brother paid for materials. She agreed to this great, thoughtful family gift and gave me the drawing to work on the frame. The house I was living in was very small, so I had just enough space in my room for a desk and craft station in my room when the door was closed. As I was working on it, my roommate slammed open my door and knocked over an ink bottle from an unrelated project and completely ruined the artwork. After talking about what to do, my brother and I decided to use clues from my mom's trip photos to find the vendor and eventually found him through Facebook. We messaged him, bought another very similar drawing, had it overnighted to me, and I finished up the frame on schedule. Mom never found out and it's now prominently displayed on the wall immediately inside their front door. When we were in middle high school, my younger brother used to get in trouble at school a lot. Whenever the school called our house to inform my parents, I would answer the phone and pretend to be my dad. Dear Mum, you weren't so tired from wrapping Christmas presents that you put them in the wrong stockings. Me and Robert bartered the size and shape of them in the morning before you got up. Sorry XX. It took care of some minor debt he had with some shady drug dealer that had him in trouble. He died last month, unrelated, and took it to the grave. There's no point telling them now so I will too. That my little sister didn't break her arm by accidentally falling off the bunk bed, but rather that she broke her arm when we flung her off of it during a game of King of the Hill. Bunked. My parents were out at aerobics class. In a very pre-cell phone age, we just tried to keep her comfortable and waited patiently for them to get home. We did finally tell them last year, and they thought it was hilarious. We kept that secret for close to 30 years. My brother is asexual. My dad is one of the macho, Don Draper types who used to chase his secretaries around the desk back in the day, so I always made up a bunch of bullet stories about all the poontang my bro used to pull in college just to impress the old man. I don't think they know about the time we got into the unwrapped Christmas present stash and looked at all our presents. about a week before Christmas. They never said anything about it, at least. But I felt really guilty about it, especially when it came time to unwrap and I had to fake surprise. Never wanted to get into the Christmas stash again after that. At one point, we were playing with our pet lizard outside and he ran away, so we panicked and went off to the pet store to replace him before the parents got home. We confessed that one to them after a few days, mostly because the replacement was pretty obviously a different lizard. They responded with, "Oh, okay, we honestly wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't replaced him. Why would we care if you have 3 lizards or 4? Sister and I were once playing with our little brother and throwing him onto our parents' bed. I was holding his feet. She was holding his hands. On the 3rd swing we would let him go flying onto the king-size waterbed. On one throw, sister was laughing too much and let go of brother's hands right at the bottom of the swing. I ended up swinging him by his feet into the bottom of the bedpost. His head was split open a 1/4 inch or so. Bled as head wounds do. We cleaned everything up and convinced him to stop crying by the time that mom and dad got home. He was maybe 5 at the time. Our parents would drop my older brother and me off at church for Sunday school and services each week. When they drove away, he and I would often sneak off and hang out with friends who lived nearby the church instead. They thought we were learning all about their religion, but we were actually learning about girls instead. That my brother's truck wasn't technically broken in two. He accidentally locked his keys in the truck while shopping at Goodwill for a tie for his interview he was on his way to. So he immediately called the insurance company telling them his car was broken into and was asking if it was covered. They said yes. So he takes the tire iron out of the bed of his truck and smashed his own window in to get his keys. Insurance fixed the window and he got the job. Half of these are older siblings convincing the baby to do dumb it. Good to know we all think the same way. Sometimes they ask and I order tons of junk food, buckets of Popeyes, big pizza for all etc. When our parents aren't home, we feed like animals after 4 months of winter who found a fresh prey. Then we destroy all the evidence. Other than that, we don't have many secrets. We aren't doing drugs or robbing people as far as I know. But sometimes I skip school to sleep, and my sis sees me. I just tell her to don't tell our dad. He just replies with okay. She kept many of my lazy secrets. We are a boring family. I'm one of 3 kids and my sister, with help from me, has managed to hide 2 tattoos, one above her ankle and one under her armpit. My parents hate tattoos and I mean hate. So much so, that there is a clause in my parents' will which states that for each tattoo on their child's body, 10% of that tattoo child's inheritance is to be taken away and then split to go to the other untattooed children's inheritances. When I was about 8 my little sister and I broke a candy jar. We told our stepmom when she called and she said it's okay. Throw away all the candy, it's old anyways. Being the unsupervised children we were, we ate every last piece. Probably about 300 plus pieces of candy total. The next day we were throwing up all day and our parents assumed it was the flu. We didn't touch another piece of candy for several months after that. When I was younger I went to Walmart and my brother was in charge of me. Well, I loved to run away from him while he chases me. Anyway, a man grabbed me while I was running and my brother saved me somehow, so I was almost kidnapped. We knocked off the glass window in our room when we were fighting and it fell 3 stories down. Fell on top of our car. We said it fell because of strong winds. Only child. I don't know who did it, never seemed to work. I have a story based on the opposite. My parents and I had a secret we kept from my brother. He lied to my parents a lot and had a tendency to do whatever he wanted regardless of the consequences. So, my parents had that family locator planned so they could track him. Basically, they could see him as a little pink dot on a map. It was actually a good thing that they had it, as they were able to find him after he left a party one night with a concussion. Somehow, my brother never knew. Eventually, my parents forgot about the locator when my brother was in college, but they still had it until one of my brother's best friends, still not sure why my parents told him about it, informed my brother that he was nothing more than a pink dot to my parents. Good times. My little brother, 9, and me, 11, once left our cat out in a blizzard for 3 days. He accidentally got out and we could never find him. My parents were both stuck at our grandmother's because of the blizzard while Em and me were stuck at home. On the third night we heard a howling from the back porch. We'd go downstairs to see a howling, wet, shivering cat on our back porch. We didn't even recognize him at first. Eventually we let him in, washed him in our bathtub, dried him off and Skyped a friend of my dad's who happened to be a vet. He was fine. Parents never found out from me, my brother, or the family friend. Not me but my kids. They are 10 and 12 and they have a live chicken in the garage they saved from our hillbilly neighbor. They think I don't know. It's frickin' hilarious listening them talk in code. So funny. I drove my brother and sister to school when I was in high school back in the mid 80s. One morning, it had been raining all night and all morning. My sister asked me to pull my car across the yard and up to the front door so she wouldn't get wet. We had a huge yard, over an acre. I got stuck in the land barge I was driving, a 1972 Monte Carlo, cutting 2 deep trenches 100 feet long across the yard to the front door. Absolutely murdered the yard. My dad would get so pissed if we ever drove on the grass. No, we didn't have a nice yard. He was just an angry drunk. So I had to fix it. Fast. When we got home from school in the afternoon, my brother and I collected pine cones and pine needles from all over the yard and covered up the evidence. It was so obvious but my dad stayed drunk and didn't immediately notice. The next spring, he saw the trench and thought he did it. He died a few years back. Not sure we ever told him. Told my mom a few years ago. She laughed. I have an autistic brother and he couldn't speak until the age of 8. He was only about 5 at the time. But anyway, he was running around the house as we were playing games. He did this thing where if he wants something he just points. So he pointed at my dad's work shoes. So I go get them and he puts it on the floor and starts pissing into my dad's shoe. I was like WTF at this moment. Then he starts running around just pissing everywhere. I was laughing so hard but I had an attachment to my brother and felt bad if my parents told him off so I said the dog did it. Still feel guilt to this day. Sorry Clifford. They still don't know to this day and I doubt my brother even remembers. I didn't split my head open falling backwards on my scooter. My best friend at the time threw a big ass rock at my head and I didn't want him to get in trouble. Even though he didn't even apologize or feel bad about it. I also didn't want people to freak out before my parents got me because my plain white shirt was literally soaked in blood. I just grabbed an empty fruit punch Gatorade out of the trash and said I spilled all over myself. I was never allowed to do anything onwards without a helmet outside. We pissed all over my mother's bed and blamed it on the puppy. She's gay. Helping her come out this Christmas. GTA, San Andreas. My parents are kind of bigots and since they didn't give us pocket money, they just used to give us money when we asked them within a reasonable limit. We basically started asking for 5 away for things that costed 4 away and stuff like that until we racked up 50. Then we bought it and used to shoot itches and stuff when parents weren't home. My brother is a huge pothead and I smoke occasionally. Dad has no idea. Bro is bringing edibles to make Christmas mass more tolerable. One time we were looking for something in my parents' closet. Found weed stash. Took some. Smoked it. They never knew. It had snowed and me and my sister were walking to school. Our road was really icy and steep so I decided to do a neat little skid. No worries. Bit shaky but a decent slide. Now my sister tried. Except she lost her balance. Windmilled her arms and punched me straight in the face. Blood on the ice from my bleeding nose. So we left the house and walked back home within 5 minutes with me covered in blood. Just told mum that I'd slipped and fallen so we both got the day off. That I left the country for a trip with my twin brother's identification because I was grounded. My mother purchased a TV that could be locked with a pin and she did. My brother and I figured it out though as it was very easy, 4,321. However after a few weeks she caught onto it since the TV was warm when she got home. So she changed the pin to something complicated. However a few days later we distracted her while she entered the pin for us and watched what buttons she pressed. From now on we put a fan next to the TV to keep it cool and we also ran our fingers across the screen to remove static charge when she got home. Worked for years and years. My mom is terrified of cats. But me and my sister would find cats in our backwood and let them in the house for a few minutes and play with them. We obviously made sure they left to go back to their original owners. My married sister's Tinder account. I broke my cousin's collarbone wrestling in the front yard at my grandparents' house. There was a very strict no roughhousing rule there, so I made him pretend it didn't hurt until the next day, where he would fake like he hurt it at football practice. He fought through the pain of a broken collarbone for over 24 hours just to avoid me getting my ass beat for wrestling at my grandparents' house. A second story, his older brother, who was 4 years older than us, took us squirrel hunting with BB guns. Or at least that's what our parents thought. Instead, we stole a bunch of terrible whiskey from my grandparents' liquor cabinet and drank in the woods. We replaced the liquor with apple juice, and maybe 6 years later my grandfather threw it out because it tasted like it. I colored all over the wall even though I knew it was against the rules. I told my mom the monster did it. Thank God she fell for it. Would have said that we both managed to hide the fact me and my brother are both bronies. But he got caught deleting a video which was an episode he was using to make a gif. Our dad saw him do that and thought he was deleting porn. Turns out it was slightly more humiliating. That we don't believe in God. We're both independent adults, but we don't want to make them sad. Also, for me it's about 10% wanting to avoid any lectures disowning that might possibly happen. I think they'd probably be okay with it eventually, but better safe than sorry. I still attend church for multiple reasons, but one of them is definitely to keep my extended family content. My brother and I are both permanently sterilized. My brother hasn't told either of our parents, and I haven't told dad. We have told them on many occasions that there will be no grandkids. My mom threatened to throw me out if I bought a motorcycle after my cousin died, despite my father owning one and growing up on dirt bikes. I bought one anyways and bribed my sister with hush money when she found out about it. My brother was shooting a BB gun in the barn, which my father had banned him from weeks before. I was feeding animals while dodging his shooting lane. He ricocheted one shot right back into his scrotum, embedding the BB into his sack. He swore me to secrecy. A few days later the school nurse sent him to the hospital for an infected ball sack. He made up some excuse, and I never told my parents. My sister sprayed at me with a garden hose at full strength inside the house. I flew 3 meters before hitting the floor crying my eyes out. The secret my brother and I have kept is that he has ratted me out for every minor indiscretion I have ever been involved in. To this day my parents don't know that they know every single thing I have ever done. That I was the one who gave her the alcohol that led to an ambulance being called for her. I am the older sibling by 2.5 years, 3 school years. It was time for my sister's prom, and I was 21, so she asked and I bought her alcohol for the first and only time. It was her prom. Well, someone got a hold of her phone late prom night and managed to phone my parents. They start freaking out when the person on the other end wasn't talking. But then in the background they hear my sister yell, "Who wants more beer?" So, I guess she got in trouble, but she didn't rat me out. It wasn't until I came clean years later that mom found out how my sister had gotten the alcohol in the first place. Back in 2011 my mom had bought Skyrim for me. I was with her when she bought it and pulled the old "can I read the manual" trick. Slipped the disc into the manual and played it until a few days before my birthday. Put it back in the box and she never knew. Also, my sister is a rich, unrelated. My brother and I get tattoos together each year around Thanksgiving time. Either we are incredibly good at keeping them covered, or my parents aren't the observant type. That we're all pretty gay, albeit to different extents, and we're all pretty positive they know, but they're conservative as duck. So if they're not bringing it up, we probably won't either. My sisters and I would get up really early and watch Pokemon on Cartoon Network. Back then we were homeschooled and only allowed to watch Disney Channel and PBS. We thought we were being so naughty. This relates to another popular thread now. My mom raised us to be relatively homophobic, not to hate them per se, but just put the idea in my head that all gay people had AIDS, so we had to stay far away from touching anyone who might be gay. My parents got divorced and guess what? My dad introduces me and my siblings to his male roommate. We accepted it in denial. but eventually all had a talk about it and cleared the air. And we accepted him and his partner, but my siblings and I decided not to tell my mom about it. My mom is prone to overreaction, so we were afraid she would try to prevent us from seeing him if she knew. My dad never asked us to lie, but agreed it was probably best to keep it quiet. Fast forward a few years. My dad passed away very suddenly. My mom picks me up and I am considering what to do. I text my siblings and say I'm going to tell mom. And I do. Once I climbed the cat tree and it broke. And my mom was like, :0 what happened? We told her it was the cat because he was getting fat from her feeding him too much. It took all our willpower to keep semi-straight faces.